The use of dicamba continues to cause issues for farmers in southern states. As we told you last November, the use of an unapproved formulation led to damage in nearby crops during the 2016 growing season. Those issues have intensified. Arkansas may now ban the use of in-crop dicamba after receiving hundreds of misuse complaints. As Bob Klein said when we talked last week, Nebraska Extension researchers, including Stephen Knezevic, have tried to measure the damage even small doses can cause. We talked with Bob near Clay Center, Nebraska, and began by asking about the challenges and benefits of using dicamba.
Well, one of the things, they can control a lot of the broadleaf weeds, which we have a problem with in controlling with the glyphosate-resistant weeds or other resistance that we have. And we have a number of other resistances that cropped up. So it gives us another tool here, which is very important in dealing with resistant weeds.
Can weeds also develop resistance to dicamba, though?
Yes, that can occur, and we did work several years ago out at North Platte, and we found out repeated applications of dicamba we could run in resistance very fast. So we want to make sure we use it in crop rotations and so forth, and use some alternate herbicides and so forth in controlling those weeds, so we can keep that good tool available to us when we need it.
Now let's talk about the challenges. What specifically can happen when you spray dicamba?
Well, of course, the new formulations really help on volatility. They really have improved that, so that can really help a lot, even at higher temperatures. You know, the old formulations and so forth, when you start getting the 80s and so forth, we could start having problems. So the main thing we're concerned about is the spray particle drift, as well as sprayer clean out and so forth. These can be major problems.
Can you tell me more about the drift, how much of a problem it can be?
Yeah, well, one of the things, we've gone to nozzles which give us a much larger particle size. Most of these particle sizes are in the ultra coarse category, which is huge. In many cases, especially on smaller weeds, I like to increase that spray volume above the 10-gallon minimum on most labels.
Extension has done some work trying to find out just how much can be a problem outside of what you're spraying. Tell me about that.
Well, that's right. As you get to the low volumes and so forth and big particle size, you don't get the coverage you need. Now, when you have big weeds, it seems like you get away with the lower gallonage and so forth. But when you have small little weeds, and that's when you want to control them, it really takes the good coverage on that. And with the large particle size, of course, to reduce spray particle drift, we got to increase that volume.
So how much dicamba can cause a problem for things that you might not want to cause a problem for?
Well, some work that Knezevic done in northeast Nebraska and so forth, and he got down to a rate of 1/500th of the normal rate, which is about 1/5 of a teaspoon, and that's the smaller one. The bigger one's a tablespoon, and sprayed on a whole acre, and it still caused injury and so forth. So it doesn't take much to cause the injury like the tomatoes, grapes, or even conventional soybeans.
You had mentioned tank clean out earlier. How important is it?
Yeah, it's really important with products like dicamba and so forth, because that can build up in the end of the spray booms and so forth, or in the tank. And then where that really dissolves is when you've got time for, when you put glyphosate or something else in there, it can clean out that. And it can really cause some major injury, which we've seen over the years. So really follow the label guidelines on sprayer clean out and do a good job with the tanks.
There are probably people who have read about the dicamba issues to the south. Is it, when you think about people spraying it here, do you have the same type of concerns?
Well, we always want to be concerned about it and so forth, but I think we've got, probably a little bit more knowledgeable applicators and so forth that can really do a good job. We provide a lot of training, but you got to really pay attention to the label and do all those things, or you can have some major problems. It can be used, and it's like anything else. Even a boat can be a problem and so forth if you drive it recklessly or something like that. And the same thing with these herbicides. If you use them recklessly or don't follow the label and so forth, you can get in trouble. But it provides us a real good tool, and we like to keep that tool because of the fact that it really helps us with some of the problems we're having dealing with resistant weeds today.